Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hala, and thank all of you for coming today. Peter and the other members of the Americans United for Palestinian Human Rights, I really appreciate the honor of being here with you. The last time I was in your lovely city was a little bit less than a year ago, and I came up here to join in a memorial concert at the Waterfront Blues Festival for my friend and a wonderful blues musician, Paul DeLay, who died a little over a year ago at the youthful age of 56. It was, of course, a sad occasion because we were commemorating the passing of a really wonderful man, a wonderful musician, and a treasure, really, of your city. But it was also a joyful day because we spent time in a lovely setting next to the Columbia River and among friends and playing the music of this wonderful man. Today is similar in the sense that we are talking about a very sobering and a very sad past, a very sad experience, tragic experience for many hundreds of thousands of people. But as that day last year we felt joy and pride, and as we celebrated, I think we have to do the same on a day like today. As sad as the experience of the Nakba has been for the Palestinian people, as great a tragedy as it was, we also have to celebrate and respect the indomitable spirit that the Palestinians have shown for the last 60 years, suffering largely unrecognized, but persevering, living their lives, raising their children, having wonderful gatherings as families, and carrying on as best they can under the most incredibly daunting circumstances. So I hope that we can all experience today commemorating those sad events, but also celebrating and appreciating the positive and the joy and the humanity that people have demonstrated for all of these decades. I want to touch on 3 issues today. First of all, it looks to me like this is largely an American audience. And I think it's important to talk a little bit about why, as Americans, we should be concerned with the issue of Israel and Palestine. After all, one conceivable reaction is to shrug one's shoulders and say, this is a really sad situation, nothing I can do about it, and walk away. And I think that is a wrong and even a dangerous response to this circumstance, and I want to tell you why. Second, although we are generally accustomed to, those of us who even know about the Nakba, those of us who know about it are accustomed to thinking of it as a discrete historical event that occurred 60 years ago. In fact, what we're really looking at in the Nakba is an ongoing process of the forced displacement of the Palestinians in favor of Jewish settlers. What occurred 60 years ago was the first and the most convulsive phase of a long historical process. And in commemorating, we have to make sure that we observe and recognize the continuities up to and including the present. We want to make sure that those things are not overlooked. The ongoing character of the Nakba, as I've defined it, the forced displacement of the Palestinian people in favor of Jewish settlers, continues. Needless to say, this process of taking the land and destroying the lives of one ethno-religious group in favor of a different, favored ethno-religious group is immoral, unjust, and unwise. And it must be stopped. So the third thing that I want to talk about is what it means and how to end the Palestinian Nakba. And in my view, the oppression and violence in the region will only end with the transformation of Israel and the Palestinian territories it controls into a single state based on equal rights for all instead of privilege for Jews over others. So, why should any of this matter to us as Americans? There is, I think, I encounter commonly in my students, among my friends, and others that I encounter in day-to-day life in this country, a widely held view that this is an ancient conflict between two peoples, like a blood feud. And if there were no solution, this would be tragic, but we have no real connection to the issue, and it would have no real impact on us. This, I think, involves misperceptions at a number of different levels. First of all, this conflict is not ancient. It's really only about 100 years old. And understanding its relatively shallow, relatively recent historical roots is a key first step in the direction of regaining agency and realizing that this isn't something that just has to go on or will go on forever. Rather, this is a situation that we can do something about. Second, and this may startle you, but it's really not a conflict. A conflict implies at least rough parity between two adversaries. And we don't have that in this situation. When a person resists armed robbery and fights back, however feebly, we do not call that a conflict. When a woman resists a rapist and fights back, we do not call that a conflict. And when a people is resisting colonial dispossession against a much more powerful force, that is not a conflict. The last and perhaps most important misperception is that we, meaning us living here in the United States, Americans, are not disconnected from this issue. We are deeply implicated as allies of one party, Israel. 61 years ago, it was our government that campaigned within the fledgling United Nations to pass the partition plan for Palestine. 6 months later, it was our President Truman who recognized Israel within 11 minutes of its declaration of independence. When we did that, we and the 32 nations that voted with us to give more than half of Palestine to a new immigrant population took the long debt sheet of Christian Europe's persecution of Jews, culminating in the Nazi Holocaust, and we signed the name of an innocent people to that debt sheet, the Palestinians. While the desire to compensate Jews for the horrific wrongs that were committed against them was commendable, taking another people's country over their strenuous objections and giving it away was itself a terrible injustice for which no one has ever been held to account.